Las Vegas isn't just a city, it is a machine. Behind the neon corridors of the Strip and the volcanic fountains of the desert resorts, this city is not owned by tourists or gamblers, or even the casinos themselves. It is owned by a dynasty. One family that bet on the desert before the desert was worth betting on, and never stopped winning. They didn't just build hotels. They built the infrastructure of desire. They rewrote the rules of hospitality, entertainment, and real estate in ways that changed not just Nevada, but the entire global understanding of what a luxury destination could be. And most people have never said their name out loud. If you want to understand who truly owns Las Vegas, you have to be willing to dig beneath the marble lobbies and the gold-plated elevators and the free drinks that make you forget you are handing over your wallet. You have to follow the deeds, the land grants, the corporate charters, and the political favors that stretch back 70 years into the Mojave sand. You have to trace the bloodlines and the boardroom coups and the construction contracts that turned a railroad stop in the middle of nowhere into the most visited city on Earth. Stay with us, because this story is long, layered, and absolutely worth knowing. And if you have ever wondered why certain families seem to own the world while the rest of us just visit it, hit subscribe right now, because we are about to show you exactly how that works. Starting with the family that owns the capital of entertainment itself. To understand the richest family in Las Vegas, you have to understand what Las Vegas actually is. Strip away the fantasy and the mythology, and what you have is a very deliberate real estate empire, dressed up in sequins and stage lighting. The city is not a place where luck rules. It is a place where the house always wins, because the house is always owned by the same people. And for the better part of the last half-century, the house has belonged to the Adelson family. Sheldon Adelson was not born into money. He was not the product of some multi-generational dynasty that handed him a trust fund and a Rolodex. He came from nothing, from the Dorchester neighborhood of Boston, where his father drove a taxi and his mother ran a knitting shop. He was the classic American story, except the version where the protagonist ends up with a $50 billion fortune, and a name carved into the skyline of 3 continents. His path to Las Vegas was not a straight line. It was a series of explosions, collapses, reinventions, and bets so audacious that even by Las Vegas standards they seemed reckless, and every single one of them paid off. Before Las Vegas, Sheldon Adelson was a serial entrepreneur in the truest sense of the word, not the polished, Silicon Valley kind that gives TED Talks, but the bruising, street-level kind that tries and fails and tries again with a ferocity that most people cannot sustain across a single decade, let alone 6. He sold newspapers on street corners as a child. He started a candy vending machine business as a teenager. He sold toiletry kits to hotels. He sold advertising. He started a court reporting business. He tried mortgage lending. He got into computer exhibitions. He failed at several of these. He got back up every time. The pivot point, the moment that changed everything, was a trade show. In 1979, Sheldon Adelson co-founded the Comdex Trade Show, which stood for Computer Dealers Exposition. The timing was perfect. The personal computer industry was just beginning to explode, and every major technology company in the world needed a platform to show their products to buyers, investors, and the press. Adelson gave them that platform. Comdex became the largest and most important technology trade show in the world, filling Las Vegas convention halls every November with tens of thousands of attendees. For over a decade, if you were in the technology business, Comdex was where you went to exist. He sold Comdex in 1995 to a Japanese media company called SoftBank for $860 million. In 1995, that number should be read carefully. He sold a trade show for nearly $1 billion. At that point, most people would have gone to a beach somewhere and stayed there. Sheldon Adelson went to Las Vegas. But he didn't go to Las Vegas to gamble. He went to Las Vegas to transform it, because by the mid-1990s, he had already made his first move in the city. In 1988, he led a group of investors to purchase the Sands Hotel and Casino, one of the most legendary properties in Las Vegas history. The Sands was a monument. It was where Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. had performed. It was the physical headquarters of the Rat Pack mythology. It was soaked in glamour, history, and nostalgia. And Sheldon Adelson looked at it and saw something completely different. He didn't see a casino. He saw convention space. He saw the future. While every other operator in Las Vegas was focused on the gambling floor and the entertainment shows, Adelson understood something that nobody else in the industry had yet articulated with clarity. The future of Las Vegas was not gambling. The future of Las Vegas was the combination of everything: gambling and conventions and retail and fine dining and luxury hotels and spectacular architecture and branded entertainment, all compressed into a single property so overwhelming in its totality that guests would never have a reason to leave. He called this the non-gaming revenue model. He was going to make more money from everything around the casino than from the casino itself. He demolished the Sands Hotel in 1996, and in its place he built the Venetian. The Venetian Resort Las Vegas opened in 1999, and it was unlike anything the city had ever seen. It was not a hotel with a casino. It was a city within a city. Adelson spent $1.5 billion on the original construction, making it the most expensive building project in Las Vegas history at that time. The scale was deliberately theatrical and deliberately overwhelming. The lobby ceiling was painted with reproductions of the frescoes from the Doge's Palace in Venice. There was an indoor canal with singing gondoliers. There was a full-scale replica of the Campanile Bell Tower from Venice's St. Mark's Square. The corridors were designed to look like outdoor Venetian streets, complete with sky-painted ceilings that shifted color to simulate the passage of sunlight. But underneath the spectacle was an infrastructure of commercial genius. The Venetian had more convention and meeting space than any other property in Las Vegas. It had a retail mall lined with luxury boutiques. It had multiple signature restaurants operated by celebrity chefs. It had a Canyon Ranch spa. It had suites, not rooms, all suites, which at the time was a revolutionary concept for a Las Vegas property at that price point. Adelson's argument was simple. The high-end business traveler, the convention attendee, the corporate group, these were people with large expense accounts who would spend freely on food and spa treatments and shopping if you gave them somewhere worthy of their money. He was right. The Venetian was immediately a financial success, and Adelson had no intention of stopping. He built the adjacent Palazzo Tower, which opened in 2007 at a cost of nearly $2 billion. Together, the Venetian and the Palazzo formed the largest hotel complex in the world by room count, with over 7,000 guest rooms and suites. The combined convention and meeting space totaled over 2 million square feet. The property was not just the biggest resort in Las Vegas. It was effectively the biggest resort on Earth. But the Venetian was not Adelson's endgame. It was his proof of concept, because what Sheldon Adelson had actually discovered in Las Vegas was not just a formula for a great hotel. He had discovered a blueprint that he believed could be deployed anywhere on the planet where there was wealth, tourism infrastructure, and a government willing to let him build. He took that blueprint to Asia. In 2004, Adelson opened the Sands Expo and Convention Center. Then he set his sights on Macau. The former Portuguese colony on the coast of China, returned to Chinese sovereignty in 1999, had just opened its gambling market to foreign operators for the first time in decades. For most of the 20th century, Macau's casino industry had been a monopoly controlled by a single local operator. When that monopoly ended, the scramble for licenses began. Adelson won one. The Sands Macau opened in 2004, and it recouped its entire construction cost of $265 million in less than 1 year. The demand from mainland Chinese gamblers, who were traveling to Macau in enormous and rapidly growing numbers, was beyond anything anyone had projected. The cash flow was extraordinary. Adelson quickly understood that Macau was not just a successful market, it was potentially the most lucrative gaming market in the history of the world. He invested in the vision of the Cotai Strip. The Cotai Strip was a reclaimed land area between the islands of Taipa and Coloane in Macau, and it was essentially empty. Adelson proposed building an entire resort corridor on this reclaimed land, modeled on the Las Vegas Strip, but designed for the scale of Chinese tourism. He began negotiations with the Macau government and staked hundreds of millions of dollars on the project before a single shovel hit the ground. The Venetian Macau opened in 2007. It was even bigger than its Las Vegas counterpart. It was the seventh largest building in the world by floor space. It had 3,000 suites, a 1.2 million square foot gaming floor, a retail mall with over 300 shops, and an arena that could seat 15,000 people. The investment was enormous, and the returns were proportionally staggering. By 2011, Macau's gambling revenues had overtaken Las Vegas. The city that Adelson had bet billions on was generating more money than the city he had started. With the Four Seasons Hotel Macau, the Sands Cotai Central, the Parisian Macau with its half-scale replica of the Eiffel Tower, these all followed in rapid succession, expanding Las Vegas Sands into the dominant force in Macanese gaming and resort development. The family's revenues from Macau alone in peak years exceeded $10 billion annually. This was not a casino company anymore. This was a sovereign-scale economic engine controlled by one family. And then he went to Singapore. The integrated resort concept, as Adelson called it, meaning the combination of a casino with a convention center and luxury hotels and retail and entertainment, all in one master, planned complex, was exactly what the Singapore government wanted. They wanted to attract high-end tourism and convention business, and they recognized that the right resort development could transform the city-state's economy in ways that conventional hotels could not. They opened bids for 2 integrated resort licenses, the most coveted gaming licenses in the world at the time. Las Vegas Sands won one of them. Marina Bay Sands opened in 2010, and it immediately became the most photographed building in Southeast Asia and one of the most recognizable structures in the world. The architectural signature was the Sky Park, a 340-meter-long rooftop platform connecting 350 5-story hotel towers like a surfboard resting on 3 fins. The Sky Park contained an infinity pool that appeared to float above the Singapore skyline, along with gardens, restaurants, and an observation deck. The image of that rooftop pool became one of the defining architectural photographs of the 21st century. The Marina Bay Sands cost $8 billion to build. In its first year of operation, it generated over $1 billion in EBITDA. The return on investment was extraordinary. Singapore became the most profitable single property that Las Vegas Sands had ever operated, generating more revenue per square foot than any other resort in the company's portfolio. The Singapore integrated resort model worked so well that it influenced resort development policy in jurisdictions from Japan to Brazil to the United Arab Emirates, with governments around the world essentially using Marina Bay Sands as the benchmark for what a properly structured integrated resort could deliver for a national economy. By 2014, Sheldon Adelson's net worth had climbed to approximately $40 billion, making him one of the top 10 wealthiest people on Earth. Las Vegas Sands, the publicly traded company through which the family held its empire, had a market capitalization exceeding $50 billion. The family held approximately 50 to 55% of the company's shares, meaning that the Adelson stake in Las Vegas Sands alone was worth somewhere between $25 and $30 billion before accounting for any of the private assets. The company paid enormous dividends, In years when the Macau and Singapore operations were running at full capacity, Las Vegas Sands generated so much free cash flow that it paid out dividends in the range of $3 to $3.50 per share annually, which, on the family's holding of roughly 500 to 550 million shares, translated into annual dividend income of roughly $1.5 to $2 billion per year in dividend income alone. This is the arithmetic of dynasty-level wealth. This is how a family fortune becomes self-sustaining and generational in a single lifetime. But the Adelson family's hold on Las Vegas goes deeper than the company financials. To understand how completely they own this city, you have to understand the layers of their presence. The physical layer, the political layer, the philanthropic layer, and the media layer. Each one reinforces and protects the others in a way that makes the family's position in Las Vegas essentially unassailable. The physical layer is the most visible. The Venetian resort Las Vegas, which is what the Venetian and the Palazzo now operate under as a combined brand following a rebranding completed after Sheldon's death, sits at the geographic heart of the Las Vegas Strip. It occupies a land footprint of approximately 63 acres on the most expensive real estate corridor in the American West. The property's assessed value alone runs into the billions. The combined resort represents a larger concentration of five-star hotel rooms, convention space, fine dining establishments, and luxury retail square footage than exists in many mid-sized American cities combined. And that is just one property complex. The family also controlled the Sands Expo and Convention Center, which was Nevada's largest convention facility, before it was absorbed into the expanded Venetian resort footprint. They owned the land parcels surrounding the main resort that could support future development phases. In the real estate arithmetic of the Las Vegas Strip, where land values are calculated in millions of dollars per acre, the Adelson family's physical holdings in Nevada alone represent a staggering concentration of ground-level wealth. But the political layer is what truly separates the Adelson family from every other wealthy family in Nevada, and arguably from most wealthy families in the United States. Sheldon Adelson was, by the final decade of his life, the single most politically influential private donor in the American political system. His contributions to political campaigns and super PACs during the 2012 election cycle were estimated at over $150 million. In 2016, he contributed over $80 million. In 2020, he contributed over $200 million, making him the largest individual political donor in that election cycle in American history. His political giving was strategic, ideological, and personal. He was a deeply committed supporter of the Republican Party and of Israeli conservative politics. He owned the Israeli newspaper Israel Hayom, which he distributed for free and which became one of the most widely circulated newspapers in Israel. He was a close political ally of Benjamin Netanyahu and of Donald Trump. His ability to fund campaigns at a scale that could single-handedly make or break a candidate's financial viability gave him access and influence at the highest levels of government that no amount of lobbying money could purchase. In Nevada specifically, the Adelson family's political reach was total. The state's gaming regulations, its tax structure for resort operations, its convention and tourism funding priorities, its labor law environment, all of these things exist in a political context that the Adelson family helped shape over decades of consistent and targeted political investment. This is not corruption in the legal sense. This is the legal exercise of political influence at scale. It is the reason why the Adelson family's physical assets in Nevada are protected by a regulatory and legislative environment that is deeply hospitable to their business model. The philanthropic layer is equally significant. The Adelson family's charitable giving is enormous in scale and deeply personal in focus. The Adelson Education Campus in Las Vegas provides private schooling from kindergarten through high school for Jewish students and others. The family has donated hundreds of millions of dollars to medical research, including $150 million to the Adelson Medical Research Foundation, and transformative gifts to institutions including Hebrew University in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv University. Dr. Miriam Adelson, Sheldon's wife, is herself a physician and medical researcher, and the family's medical philanthropy reflects her professional passions as much as their financial capacity. In Las Vegas, specifically, the family's philanthropic footprint reinforces their civic legitimacy. They are not simply extracting wealth from the city. They are visibly investing in its educational and cultural infrastructure in ways that create goodwill and community ties that last generations. The Adelson name is on buildings that are not casinos, which matters enormously for the long-term social sustainability of the family's position in the city. And then there is the media layer. Sheldon Adelson purchased the Las Vegas Review-Journal in December 2015. The Review-Journal is the largest and most widely read newspaper in Nevada. It is the paper of record for the state's most important city. The acquisition was conducted through an anonymous shell company, and for several weeks after the purchase, the identity of the new owner was not publicly known, which created an enormous journalistic controversy when reporters at the paper began investigating their own ownership structure and found signs pointing to Adelson. When the ownership was confirmed, several longtime editors resigned in protest. The purchase of the Review-Journal made the Adelson family not just the owners of the largest resort in Las Vegas, but the owners of the dominant media voice covering Las Vegas. They owned the city's most important physical asset. They owned the city's most important political relationships. And now they owned the city's most important news platform. The combination of these three layers of ownership, physical, political, and informational, is the definition of what it means to truly own a city. Sheldon Adelson died on January 11, 2021, at the age of 87, from complications related to non-Hodgkin lymphoma. He was worth approximately $35 billion at the time of his death, making him one of the wealthiest individuals ever to die in the United States. His death triggered the largest transfer of gaming company control since the consolidation of the Las Vegas casino industry in the late 20th century. The heir to this empire is his wife, Dr. Miriam Adelson, and the story of what she has done with the inheritance is the next chapter of the dynasty, one that is, if anything, even more ambitious than the chapter that Sheldon himself wrote. Miriam Oxenberg Adelson was born in Tel Aviv in 1945, the daughter of Holocaust survivors. She trained as a physician and built a career in addiction medicine that was distinguished long before she met Sheldon Adelson. She ran addiction treatment clinics in Tel Aviv and later in Las Vegas, and her academic work on drug addiction treatment protocols earned her recognition in medical journals and research institutions that had nothing to do with casinos or billionaires. She is not simply a wealthy widow. She is a formidably intelligent and independently accomplished person who married someone who happened to become one of the richest men in history. When Sheldon died, Miriam inherited approximately 550 million shares of Las Vegas Sands stock, giving her a controlling stake in the company worth approximately $14 billion at the time of inheritance, and substantially more as the company's Macau and Singapore operations recovered from the disruptions caused by pandemic-era travel restrictions. She became, overnight, the controlling shareholder of one of the largest gaming and resort companies in the world, and she immediately made clear that she intended to be an active owner, not a passive one. In 2021, Las Vegas Sands announced the sale of the Venetian Resort, Las Vegas and the Sands Expo Convention Center to a consortium led by Apollo Global Management and the Vici Properties Real Estate Investment Trust for approximately $6.25 billion. This was one of the largest single property transactions in Las Vegas history. The sale was strategic, not desperate. Las Vegas Sands used the proceeds to reduce debt and to concentrate its capital deployment focus on its Asian operations in Macau and Singapore and on potential future opportunities in new markets. The Venetian in sale did not mean the Adelson family was retreating from Las Vegas. It meant they were repositioning. Miriam retained her full stake in Las Vegas Sands, which continued to generate revenue from its Asian properties. She retained the Las Vegas Review-Journal. She retained the family's philanthropic and political infrastructure. And she began making new moves. In November 2023, Miriam Adelson agreed to sell approximately $218 million of Las Vegas Sands stock in order to fund the purchase of a majority stake in the Dallas Mavericks NBA franchise, with a reported valuation for the team approaching $6 billion. This move was significant on multiple levels. It represented the Adelson family's expansion into professional sports ownership, which is both a status symbol and an increasingly valuable asset class, as media rights values have escalated. It also demonstrated Miriam's willingness to make large-scale capital allocation decisions independently, without the advice or direction of her late husband. The Mavericks acquisition also reflected a broader strategic reality that the Adelson family has begun to navigate, which is the question of Las Vegas as a sports city. Las Vegas has transformed in recent years from a purely gaming and entertainment destination into a legitimate sports hub. The Las Vegas Raiders of the NFL relocated from Oakland to the brand new Allegiant Stadium in 2020. The NHL's Vegas Golden Knights won a Stanley Cup championship in just their 6th season of existence in 2023, one of the most remarkable expansion team stories in professional sports history. The Vegas Aces of the WNBA have become one of the most successful franchises in women's basketball. Formula One brought its Las Vegas Grand Prix back to the Strip in 2023 with a race layout that sent cars through the heart of the casino corridor. And Major League Baseball's Oakland Athletics are in the process of relocating to Las Vegas, with a new stadium planned adjacent to the Strip. This sports transformation is not incidental to the Adelson family's interests. Every sports team that comes to Las Vegas, every major event that uses the city as its stage, reinforces the fundamental economic proposition that Sheldon Adelson spent his career building, which is that Las Vegas is the world's premier destination for high-value leisure and entertainment. Each new team and each new event drives hotel bookings, restaurant revenues, retail spending, and the kind of aspirational tourism that fills luxury suites and high-roller gambling floors. The Adelson family does not need to own every sports team or every stadium to benefit from this transformation. They built the city that the transformation is happening in. But to fully appreciate the scale of what the Adelson family owns and controls in Las Vegas, you have to step back and think about it in terms of what economists call agglomeration effects, meaning the way in which the concentration of economic activity in one place creates compounding benefits that are greater than the sum of their parts. The Venetian was not just a hotel. It was the anchor tenant of a hospitality and entertainment ecosystem that shaped the development of the Northern Strip. When the Venetian opened, it changed the competitive calculus for every other resort on that stretch of Las Vegas Boulevard. It raised the standard for what a convention-focused property had to offer. It drove competing resorts to invest in their own convention and dining and retail infrastructure in ways that collectively elevated the entire destination. This is how a single family can effectively own a city without having a deed to every building. You own the property that sets the standard. You own the narrative. You own the regulatory relationships. You own the media that shapes the story. And you own the culture that draws the people in the first place. The financial architecture of the Adelson family's Las Vegas wealth is also worth examining in detail because it illustrates something profound about how dynastic wealth actually works at this scale. The family's stake in Las Vegas Sands is held through various family trusts and holding entities. This structure serves multiple purposes. It provides asset protection, separating the family's personal wealth from the liabilities of any individual business entity. It provides tax efficiency, allowing the family to manage the timing and character of income recognition and wealth transfers across generations. And it provides governance continuity, meaning that when a patriarch or matriarch dies, the company does not immediately face a disruptive contest for control. The dividend income generated by the family's Las Vegas Sands stake, even in years when the payout was reduced due to pandemic disruptions, has been sufficient to sustain the family's lifestyle, philanthropic commitments, and political giving without requiring them to sell shares. This is the mark of a truly established dynastic fortune. The income from the assets exceeds the costs of maintaining and expanding the family's position. The principal does not need to be touched. The fortune compounds. Miriam Adelson's personal philanthropic commitments have continued and in some ways expanded since Sheldon's death. The Adelson Medical Research Foundation has continued its funding of research into multiple sclerosis, pancreatic cancer, and other conditions of personal significance to the family. The family's educational philanthropy, including the Adelson Educational Campus in Las Vegas and substantial gifts to Israeli universities, has continued unabated. In 2023, Miriam made one of the largest single gifts in the history of journalism education, donating $300 million to the University of Southern California's Journalism School, which was subsequently renamed the Miriam and Sheldon Adelson School of Journalism. This gift was remarkable not just for its scale, but for its symbolism, a family that owned a newspaper making a transformative investment in the academic study of the profession of journalism. The political dimension of the family's Las Vegas